debrief, retrospective, autopsy, post-mortem. These are all words or phrases that we use to talk about something that just happened. And in this case, I'm going to walk you through doing a post-mortem on how you spent the fantastic year that is 2020. Hello, hello, hello. You are listening to your weekly private training for those who get it, the ones who aren't afraid of success, money, or growth. I am your hostess with the mostest, Jennifer Bleam, and welcome to podcast number 12, Was Your Vision 2020? Now, if you looked at the timestamp on this podcast, I suspect this is going to end up being a pretty short podcast because I'm simply going to walk you through about 11 questions, 10 or 11 questions that are going to be designed to walk you through how you spent 2020 so that you can either continue that trajectory for 2021 or perhaps make some adjustments and make some changes. So let's jump in, and you may want to do this with a pad of paper or a way for you to take note, and you may want to be Johnny on the spot with the pause button because I'm not necessarily going to pause for very long as I ask you these questions, but you may want to take a few minutes and journal or document some of these questions. So number one, what worked well that you are grateful for? You know, gratitude is such an important success principle. It is so important to rewire our brains if we are not naturally grateful. Complaining is a habit and gratitude is a habit. And so if naturally you are a complainer, what you have done is created the habit of complaining. And instead you need to learn to put on those gratitude glasses and look around, find things to be grateful for, no matter how well or how horrible your year went. I promise you, there are still glimmers of fantastic things that happened that you can be grateful for. So that's question number one. What worked well that you are grateful for? Now, number two, what did not go so well? And what did you learn? Now, the point of this question is not to beat yourself up. So many entrepreneurs do that naturally. They do not need a podcast for someone to say, hey, list your failures. Many of you, those bounce around inside of your head and very, very often. So many of you have that challenge. I am not asking you to beat yourself up. But if you've listened to some of my other trainings, one of my mentors always says you don't fail, you either succeed or you learn. And so what are some things in 2020 that did not go so well? But most importantly, what lessons did you learn from that season in your life? Because otherwise, if you don't learn that lesson, you will repeat that mistake over and over and over again until you finally learn the lesson. I would much rather you make a single mistake, learn a single lesson, and move on to something new. So, where did things go not so well, and what did you learn? Number three is kind of a multi-part question. Where did you spend your time and your energy? And does that line up with who you want to become and what you want for your business? So I often talk to business owners who have been in business for 15, 20 years, and sometimes it has cost them their marriage. Sometimes it has cost them the health of their marriage. You know, they're still married, but it's not a great marriage. And so that was never their direction. That was never their goal, but yet they somehow arrived there. So I don't want that to happen to you, whether it's with your marriage or your family time or the amount of time you put into your business or the things that you enjoy in your business. I don't want you to end up in 15 years and look back and realize that you don't like where you got to. You don't like this destination. So where did you spend your time and your energy? And does that line up with who you want to become and what you want for your business? And as you start to answer that question, the corollary there to this is kind of 3B is what changes do you need to make? And secondarily, what do you need to establish as more consistent patterns? Because that's the other thing that I will see is that there were great success principles that you followed for a few weeks, and then you fell off the wagon and you never got back on simply because you lost track of it. You forgot, you got distracted, you were busy. And so where were there some places that you are happy that you spent your time and energy, but they were success principles and yet kind of fell off the wagon, and maybe you need to establish those as more consistent patterns. So question 3 is all about spending time and energy. Now, as you are thinking about that, question number 4 is in the same vein. What is one thing that you did in 2020 that going into 2021 will not be the best use of your time, energy, and effort? So, what is one thing that you look back and you say, I did this in 2020? Maybe it was the right decision for you to do it, maybe not. But you definitely recognize that going forward, you cannot do it. This is another thing that I am seeing over and over again in the entrepreneurial world. And it's so interesting to me as I spend much of my time in the cybersecurity world. With cybersecurity, most IT companies are very willing to outsource cybersecurity. They understand that it's a large beast of a thing. They understand it's not necessarily their skill set. It's not something that they are willing to put the time and effort into learning. It is very challenging. And so they are very happy to lift that up and dump it on somebody else's plate. That's a great skill set. But what is it inside of the business or inside of your life that you're doing right now that isn't going to be the best use of your time, energy, and effort going into 2020? Next question, question number 5. What is one area that you want to stretch or grow into next year? This could be a new line of business. Maybe it's cybersecurity. Maybe it is something in the compliance space. Compliance is a huge, huge thing right now. So it's almost it's that blue ocean, I believe is the phrase. So where's an area that you want to stretch or grow into? Maybe you want to get into co-managed IT. Maybe you want to explore larger clients. Maybe you want to hire your first salesperson. But what is an area that will cause you to stretch or grow? Then I want you to think of a colleague who was the most helpful this year. Perhaps it was a conversation via email or a live call via phone, or maybe you were part of a mastermind and they just said something that was super helpful. Perhaps it helped you get over a hump or get out of a funk. Think of who that colleague was that was most helpful and take the time to either shoot them a quick text or even jot them a handwritten note. Number 7. Either answer what was the best memory from 2020. And a good way to do this is to scan through your photos, because if you're like me, you'll go back and you'll say, wow, I forgot I did that in March or April. Now, many of us in March or April were locked in our house. And so perhaps we don't have very many pictures, but in a typical year, our photos are a great way to relive our memories from the year. And so perhaps you are listening to this at a different time of the year or during a different year, and you do indeed have photos to go back and relive your year. So either what was the best memory of 2020 or what made you laugh the hardest? Then I want you to list 5 things that you wish you would have done. 5 things, 5 opportunities that you had that you chose not to jump into. And do some thinking here, because perhaps these are things that you're like, they were opportunities, but I opted not to do them. And I'm glad I didn't do them. So you can definitely twist this question a bit to answer it how you want to. So either 5 things you wish you would have done or 5 opportunities you did not take and why you're glad you didn't take them. These next 2 are very easy. Rate your happiness on a scale of 1 to 10, or your fulfilledness, if that's a word, happiness or fulfilledness on a scale of 1 to 10. And then rate your ability to focus on a scale of 1 to 10. Because focus is so hard in this world with all of the gadgets and chirps and dings and knocks on the door and phones ringing, focus is super hard. And so if you say, yeah, I really wasn't very focused in 2020, that may be an area you want to spend time on in 2021. Same with happiness or how fulfilled you were. If you just got done with 365 days of hard work and effort and sweat, tears, sometimes blood if you were underneath a desk turning a screwdriver, and you say, I'm just not really very happy, then you need to ask yourself why. And believe it or not, unhappiness is a habit also. We talked about being grateful as number one, being grateful for what is going on. Happiness is a habit too, or unhappiness. And so do some self reflection. And last question, if you could travel back to January 1st, 2020, what would you tell yourself? I think many of you would probably say, buckle up. You're in for a really bumpy ride. But when you get to the end of the year, you're going to have so much to celebrate, and you will realize that you are stronger than you ever expected, and it's going to be okay. Well, if you would travel back a year ago and say that to yourself now, then what does that mean for 2021? Because you're even stronger than you were. You're even more prepared for bumps and bruises and pivoting and all of the craziness that we've been through in 2020. That has prepared you for a phenomenal 2021. So think about what you would tell yourself a year ago, and then think how that applies to your 2021 planning and how excited that should get you about 2021. I know this has been a particularly short podcast in terms of record time, if you will, but I do want you to take the time to look back and see if your vision was 2020. How was your vision? How was your execution? Are you grateful for things that went right? Are you grateful for things that went wrong? What did you learn throughout the year? Where do you need to make some changes and then make those changes happen? That's it for now. I would love for you to comment below the post and say share your answer to number 11. If you could travel back a year ago, what would you tell yourself? And then for bonus points, you can say, what does that bode for 2021? That's it for now. I'll talk with you next week.